Are you new to meal planning, but it feels very overwhelming and scary to you? Or have you meal prepped in the past, but fell off the boat and just can't seem to get back on it? Are you trying to build muscle and get stronger so you can boost your sports performance and know meal planning is your missing link? In today's episode, I'm going to share with you some simple tips to get you started with meal planning and prepping that won't be overwhelming. I'll also explain what you need to include in your meals to reach your muscle building goals, as well as some tools to make things simpler for you. So grab a pen and paper to take some notes and let's get started. Tired of feeling exhausted after training? Confused about how to fuel your body without all the food rules? Welcome to Female Sports Nutrition, where I'll help you fuel strong, build muscle, and perform your best, all while breaking free from diet culture. I'm Kristen, a sports dietitian, trainer, and Jesus lover, and I'm here to help you fuel with freedom. Lace up your shoes, grab that smoothie, and let's jump in. Are you spending hours a day online following all the social media influencers and their conflicting advice? Have you been Googling what to eat, what not to eat, how much to eat, and? I've been there, friend. I wasted so much time following multiple fitness models' advice that left me feeling defeated and lost. It affected my energy, performance, and mental health. I want you to know there's a better way and you don't have to be stuck in the cycle of confusion or defeat for one more day. I invite you to come and learn how to actually fuel your body so you can build muscle without dieting and without taking any unhealthy supplements. Once I finally turned away from all the confusion and learned how to fuel my body, I was able to build over 10 pounds of muscle in just 3 months. I had so much energy, I was actually excited to go to the gym and felt great the rest of the day. I still fuel my body in this exact way even 10 years later, and I've never looked back. If you're ready to turn down the noise and get clear on how to nourish your body so you can get stronger, head on over to elitenutritionandperformance.com/coaching right now, and let's get started. Okay, so let's first break down what you actually need to be eating in a meal. And I'm going to make this super simple for you. I'm not even going to include calculations or numbers or anything like that. If you want to build some serious muscle, you've got to eat in a little bit of an excess. And sometimes that can feel very scary because we think, oh my gosh, if I eat too much, I'm going to gain weight. But here's the deal. If you are training appropriately and you're pushing yourself and you're really pushing the weights, you're not going to gain a bunch of fat. You're going to gain a bunch of muscle, which is what we want to have happen. But you need to eat to fuel your muscles so that your body can take that food and turn it into muscles. I have a friend that said this a couple months ago, and I thought it was funny, but I actually found it to be very true. Think of the motto, you need to lift heavy things and eat a lot of groceries in order to build muscle. That's basically what it is. So let's talk about how you can balance your plate or balance your container or whatever it is that you're going to eat out of so that you can build muscle. That is the easiest and most simplest way to figure out what you should be eating. So imagine you have a plate or a container. You're going to divide it into thirds. 1/3 of it is going to be grains or carbohydrates. So think things like potatoes, rice, pasta, beans, quinoa. You get the idea. Another third is going to be protein. So protein would be things like any type of meat, fish, eggs. It could be dairy. It could be tofu. Beans also contain protein. So that's going to be half carbohydrates and protein. That's getting a little too complicated, but just know it does count as both. And then the other third is going to be vegetables. So this could be any vegetables that you want. Really doesn't matter. We don't need to get into the nitty gritty of, oh, carrots have too much sugar in them and all that business. That's ridiculous. Just know you need to have some vegetables. Now, the other thing that you need to have is a fat source. So your fat can be anything from cheese to oil. It could be bacon. It could be butter. It could be nuts, seeds. It could be that you're having a higher fat meat, whatever. You just need to have some fat in there as well. And don't skimp on the fat either, because fat is very important for hormone production, which is going to, 1, help you with your menstrual cycle, but 2, it's actually going to help you with building muscle. So make sure that you are getting some fats in there and you're not just eating chicken, plain rice, and some plain vegetables that have no fat on them. You're not going to get where you need to go by following that type of a meal. So rule of thirds, divide your plate or container or whatever it is into thirds. Make sure that you have some fat in there. Next up, we're going to just start really small when it comes to meal planning or meal prepping, because if you do too much, it is going to be very overwhelming. And then you're going to get to the point where you're going to say, forget it. I'm not doing this anymore. So what I suggest doing is starting with just one meal to plan out or to prep. So what I personally do is I just plan out my dinners and I make lots of dinner so that I have those leftovers to use for subsequent meals. I do not plan out lunches and I don't plan out breakfast, although sometimes I do prep breakfast. So whatever the meal that is most challenging for you, and this answer really varies for a number of people, that's where I would start for you when it comes to starting your meal plan or meal prep. And then once you get comfortable with planning things out and prepping for them, then you can start to expand those meals and do other meals. Let's say you started with dinner. Now, next up is breakfast. That's the second most challenging for you. Now you can start prepping those or planning those out. So really, in my opinion, there's two ways to start. Number one is, like I mentioned, to make a meal and make a lot of it so that you have extras for subsequent meals. So let's say breakfast is your challenge. You can make a breakfast casserole, which is what I typically do when I'm going to meal prep breakfast. That's where I get a big casserole dish. I'll spray it with some olive oil spray. I'll slice up some potatoes or get the frozen shredded hash browns and put that on the bottom. And when I slice up potatoes, I'm talking about cooked potatoes. So I'm taking, baked potatoes, slicing them up and putting them at the bottom. And then I will take whatever vegetables that I have on hand, throw that in there. I will then take either like a breakfast meat or just some leftover meat that I have in the refrigerator. So this could be like a breakfast sausage, maybe it's some bacon. The last one I made had leftover pork tenderloin that I just chopped up and threw in there just to increase the protein content. And then I scramble up at least 2 eggs for every serving that I'm going to get out of that breakfast casserole. And then I bake it for about 30 minutes and that's it. It's done. Now, if you're looking at dinner, whatever your dinner is that you're going to make, maybe it's going to be a burrito bowl. You're just going to make a lot of that meal. And now you have that for maybe lunch tomorrow, maybe another dinner, or you can make even more than that and have several dinners if you're willing to eat the same thing over and over again for several meals. Now, if you're not willing to eat the same thing over and over again for several meals, your next option is to prep the components that you need for your meals. And then you can just kind of mix and match to make a couple meals out of them. So this would be batch cooking. Some examples that you could do would be shredded chicken in the Instant Pot, which is probably one of my favorites, and I will drop the recipe below for you on that. I'll also get a rotisserie chicken from the store, or I will make my own in the Instant Pot. That's also super easy, but getting one from the store is obviously very easy if you're going there. I'll grill some steak or some pork tenderloin, and then I'll also just cook up some ground beef. So these are several options that you can kind of pick between. Next up, I will cook some rice, or you can buy pre-cooked rice. I would suggest buying brown rice, or you could do a mix and match of white rice and brown rice. You can kind of mix the two together. I will also bake potatoes. I'll do a combination of white potatoes or sweet potatoes. I'll cook up a pot of quinoa. And then now I have a couple different grains and a couple different proteins that I can pick between to make several different meals. Then I will use bags of frozen vegetables and either just steam them in the microwave, or I will actually roast those vegetables. I will use the frozen vegetables that are already pre-chopped because I don't want to chop the vegetables. I'll just use the pre-chopped frozen vegetables, put some olive oil on them, and roast them in the oven at 450 degrees. You need to roast them at a high heat so that they don't get all soggy and gross from them being frozen. And I'll make a pan or two of those, so then I have that for multiple meals. And then, of course, like I said, you don't want to forget about a fat. So if you have potatoes, put some butter on your potatoes. If you have a burrito bowl, put some cheese and some guacamole on it. If you have some chicken, put some olive oil and some red wine vinegar or balsamic vinegar, something like that, some type of a dressing that you can put on there that would have some fat in it. Next up is KISS. Remember the acronym KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Don't plan meals that you don't have time to cook. You really want to stick with easy and quick recipes that you can make in a short amount of time. So make sure that you're picking quick and easy foods that you can meal prep. Quite frankly, I would just go back to the list that I gave you because you can make multiple meals out of them. So for example, you can make ground beef with rice, canned black beans, cheese, and chopped spinach, and there's a burrito bowl. If you want to put some salsa or some hot sauce on it or some guacamole, just kind of mix things up, go for it. And if you want to swap out the spinach for another vegetable, like canned green beans, for example, now you're making even more variety but it's, again, something super simple. Another option is grilled steak with a baked potato with some butter on top and some roasted vegetables or steamed vegetables. I also love making quinoa salad, so I'll use shredded chicken with cooked quinoa, some roasted vegetables, olive oil, red wine vinegar, some spices, and some feta cheese. Mix it all up. And now I have a quinoa salad. I personally will eat that cold, but if you want to warm it up in the microwave, you can. So these are just simple ideas that you can use to meal plan with and meal prep. Now, when you are trying to plan out what you're going to make, the thing that I have found works the best is to get a whiteboard and put it in your kitchen. I have one hanging on my pantry door. And what I do at the beginning of each week, so I'll do this over the weekend, is I look at the week and I figure out, is there any days that I am not going to eat dinner at home, or I won't have time to cook anything, or whatever the case is. And so I'm going to have to plan accordingly for that. If I'm not going to be home, like I'm simply not going to eat food at home, I'm just going to make an X through that meal, or I'm going to put where I'm going to eat my meal at. Now, if it's something where you know you're going to get home late and you're not going to have time to cook, either you can have something cooking in the Instant Pot or your crock pot waiting for you when you get home. So like yesterday, we went up to North Carolina to visit a friend, and I didn't get home until almost 7 o'clock. So what I did was I got a rotisserie chicken, and I already had some vegetables in my refrigerator that we used to have with it, as well as some baked potatoes. So you're just going to have to think ahead a little bit on those meals when you're going to be home late. And like I said, plan accordingly for that. So maybe you just want to throw some chicken, some chopped up potatoes, and carrots with some broth in a slow cooker and make that into your dinner on one of those nights where you're going to get home late. Just throw it in there in the morning before you leave, and it'll be this wonderful smell when you get home. So next, you're going to take the other days that you're going to be home, and I honestly would probably just pick out 3 days for you to cook something, maybe even 2, depending on how much you plan to make, and just plan out those 2 to 3 meals. You're going to write down when you're going to make them, like what days and what you're going to actually make. And then the days that you aren't going to cook something, but you are going to eat at home, I just write in leftovers, or I'll say what I'm going to have as my leftover. So then each day you can look at the board and know exactly what you're going to eat. There's no guessing. There's no, oh my gosh, I don't even have anything pulled out of the freezer. What am I going to make tonight? You can actually look at the board every day and figure out if you need to pull something out of the refrigerator, or you need to get something from the grocery store, or whatever the case is. Now, if this is all still overwhelming to you and you're like, okay, the whiteboard thing is not going to work for me, I need something that I can have with me at all times because I'm so on the go all the time, I would highly suggest getting a meal planner app. I did a podcast episode on this a while back, and I will link that below for you. But that's super simple, where you can actually just type in what ingredients that you have. It'll give you a whole list of recipes, and then it'll actually create your shopping list for you. So then you can go to the store with your shopping list, or some of those apps you can even order directly from the app your groceries from the grocery store and have it delivered to your front porch, which is amazing. So last up is just get creative and have fun with this. Meal planning and meal prepping should not be overwhelming. It shouldn't be scary. There are no hard and fast rules when it comes to meal planning or meal prepping. It's all about what works for you. So just start small. Start with what you already have in your kitchen. You don't need to create some fancy meal. You don't need to go onto some website or Pinterest and look up high protein recipes or whatever. Just start with what you already have. If you already have some frozen meat, great. Pull that out of your freezer. You have some rice in your pantry, great. Cook that. If you have a bag of frozen vegetables, great. Start with that. Just start with what you already have and just put it together. All you need is the components. So just keep it really simple and then start to have fun with it and expand from there. Now, if you're ready to take your meal planning and meal prepping game to the next level, and you really want to hone in on exactly how much you should be eating and when, and have an exact plan, that's the time that you want to sign up for my one-on-one coaching so we can figure out exactly how much you should be eating so that you can build some serious muscle. Just head on over to elitenutritionandperformance.com/coaching, and I'll drop the link below for you in the show notes. Hey friend, if this podcast inspired you, encouraged you, or changed you, I would love for you to leave me a review and share it with a girlfriend who will find it helpful or inspiring. That is the best way you can thank me and help me share my knowledge so I can help more people just like you. I'm so thankful that you spent this time with me today, and I'd love to connect with you. Join my Facebook group, Female Sports Nutrition, or send me a DM on Instagram, or hop on over to my website, EliteNutritionPerformance.com. I'll see you back here next week.